average to that person's blood pressure over the course of time. Does that make sense? You're not going to erode your river by one large release of water. You'll cause a little bit of damage here and there, but you're not going to cause a major erosion from one release of a big pile of water that then goes back down to a creek. Does that make sense? What's going to erode the riverbank is high water over a long period of time. Does that make sense? So it's the mean arterial pressure that we're really interested in. I would argue that we need to split these two up. Mean arterial pressure and pulmonary blood pressure. Systemic blood pressure and pulmonary blood pressure are two very different things. Okay, and they're regulated differently. Okay, let's come back to all of this stuff. All right, so all of this, including the increase in blood pressure that Shannon's talking about, all of these things together would have, you could actually put them into another overarching category of change to the body. Can you think of anything else that would be changing in this person globally and on the long term?
Experience a lot of fatigue and weakness.
Okay, yeah, they would have fatigue and weakness, and that, okay, so let me add that in. Fatigue and weakness, which also would add into the one I'm thinking of.
Altered mental state. Or a lot of times you get confusion.
Maybe.
Heart, right?
I
What's
think
that?
you get wandering atrial
The heart.
pacemaker,
What
but I
about the
don't know
heart?
what.
It will start, I mean, if the person continuously stays in that high blood pressure, like you said, in the long run, it'll affect the pump, like the heart.
Okay, so it might have some cardiac changes. What would it be doing to the heart?
It'll want it to,
What's that?
Enlarging the heart.
Okay, so we might have cardiac hypertrophy. Great.
Could you have stenosis of like the blood vessels?
You could, it depends on what's the underlying cause, but that's possible. This does not necessarily denote a disease specific to like build up a plaque or something like that, though those often come hand in hand. But there could be some blood flow issues. There's still another big overarching body system that is affected by all of these things and then will affect the rest of the body.
Yeah, renal failure? Renal?
Nope.
Is it the endocrine system?
It isn't in this case.
Good try,
But this
though.
system,
That's
but the
nice.
system I'm thinking of will affect the endocrine system also, big time.
Your nervous system.
Renals.
What nervous system?
Your central nervous system.
Try again.
Man, Andrew, you're good at just throwing answers out, I have to say. You're really
Take a moment. Yeah, take a moment. You're hypoxic.
sympathetic.
You've got acids building up and lots of carbon dioxide, right? You've got change in the blood pressure. You've got hypertrophy. What are all of those things? What system are all of those things going to lead to changes?
ANS.
What's going to happen in the sympathetic system? What's going to happen to your sympathetic system in these situations?
They're always being plugged into, so you're not going to be as reactive to it.
No, you're already kicked into it.
You're
We're all-
going to kick into it.
That's what I like.
You're
All the time.
hypoxic.
You're going to have an increase in sympathetic activity, right?
Right.
You are hypoxic, right? If your body's hypoxic, what do you have to do to cardiac output,
Increase it.
right?
Yeah.
But it's already hypertrophy, so.
My point was, isn't it numb? Like,
Like when you start operating on a carbonic drive versus hypoxic drive because your SpO2's low, are you gonna, because you always have that epi,
What activates the sympathetic nervous system?
your norepinephrine and epinephrine?
No, that is,
That's the,
that's what the sympathetic nervous system is using to activate other things. My question to you is what activates the sympathetic nervous system?
your adrenal glands? Your,
No,
no,
that is
that's
the
what
sympathetic
produces it.
system uses to activate.
Hypoxia, you know.
Yeah, and you can
Your-
list all those into what term? What activates the sympathetic nervous system? Who said that?
Stress.
Stressors. Various stressors activate the sympathetic nervous system, right? various stressors. Doesn't matter what those stressors are. Those stressors could be physiologic stressors, it could be psychological stressors, doesn't really matter, but those stressors is what's activating the sympathetic nervous system. Now we have a situation where they don't have as much oxygen flowing around their body, they don't have as much nutrient in their body, and they have to have those. What is the average heart rate for somebody with lung disease going to be compared to the same person, if you can get the exact same person without lung disease?
90 to,
Higher,
yeah.
because the demand is higher for the nutrients that the sympathetic system has to deliver, that the cardiovascular system has to deliver, and the sympathetic system is what's causing the cardiovascular system to be able to deliver that. Does that make sense? Yeah, so far? We good? Okay, so we have increases in the sympathetic nervous system. We have increases in hypertrophy, and specifically, where might we see that cardiac hypertrophy?
The left.
Right ventricle, because the lungs will be backing up into the right.
Okay, good.
There you
On the
go.
right side is where we tend to see this enlargement. And we see it a lot, we'll see it in the right ventricle. If we go right ventricular hypertrophy, what will that lead to?
Right atrial.
Right
atrial.
atrial hypertrophy, right? We get the right atrial hypertrophy and the right ventricular hypertrophy because why are we getting those? Why are those becoming hypertrophy?
Because they have to push against the back pressure in the lungs.
Good. And so if we continue that backwards, what's that going to lead to?
JVD.
The edemas, because we're not pumping as much, right? Because it's having to build muscle mass to overcome this pressure, but it's backing up, right? Does that make sense? So you see how all of these things can be tied together. We all see how they're all tied together so far? Okay, so now let's talk about the heart.
Could you get a different pen,
No?
please? Thank you.
Sure.
He just put new institution.
I just put that pen, I just got a new one out of the box and put it there yesterday.
Oh,
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the heart for just a minute. We have an increase in sympathetic activity. We have more cells going on, right? We have cells that are hypoxic. We have cells that are acidotic, right? What are some various things that that's going to cause the heart to do? Start with the sympathetic system. What's the sympathetic system going to cause? Increase heart rate.
Increased contractility.
Increase contractility. What else? You got 2 of the 4. Come on, guys. What else is the sympathetic system going to cause besides increased heart rate and increased contractility? What's that? Blood pressure is not heart.
Vasoconstriction? Vasoconstriction?
Vasoconstriction is not the heart. Cardiac output is the heart, but it's not mechanistic yet.
That's 500.
That's Frank Starling's law.
Contractility is going to increase stroke volume.
Refractory period?
What about the refractory period?
Would
Decrease it.
Be shortened.
Okay, so now we're getting someplace. So we had 4 things that the sympathetic system does to the heart. We're going to shorten the refractory period and therefore increase the speed of repolarization. So increase,
Wouldn't that be tied into increased heart rate?
It's the resetting faster.
That's a point.
what does repolarization have to do with depolarization other than it comes after?
So that-
Depolarization is based on what? Depolarization is based on,
The firing of the the passing of ions,
What ions?
the sodium ions, calcium ions,
Sodium ions in what, and calcium ions in what?
in the IF channels. In the oh man,
Spotlight.
along the autoarrhythmic cells
Which one?
in the
Calcium or sodium?
calcium,
Okay.
calcium in the in the autoarrhythmic cells.
And? Is sodium part of it at all?
And sodium. Right, because the
I need to-
calcium,
I need to restate my question because we're all confused with my question. What is the depolarizing ion? What is the post-threshold depolarizing ion of an autorhythmic cell?
post threshold.
We've reached threshold and we are now depolarizing. Because depolarization happens after threshold, right? So depolarization in an autorhythmic cell is caused by what ion?
Sodium.
Sodium. Sodium gets it there.
Intracellular calcium?
Calcium.
Thank you,
No,
Andrew.
I'm just saying no because you were almost right.
You said
Calcium.
intercellular calcium. It's just
Calcium.
calcium.
Not intracellular, extracellular calcium. What is the depolarizing ion of a contractile cell? Is it also calcium?
No,
Sodium.
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 And through their corresponding channels, yes?
Yes.
What is the repolarizing ion of an autorhythmic cell?
Potassium.
What is the repolarizing ion of a contractile cell?
Potassium.
How are they the same? Because you made the argument that aren't those the same? Aren't they tied to the same thing? So if we're increasing the speed of which these calcium ions and or sodium ions are entering the cell, how is that increasing the speed at which the potassium is coming out?
No.
I mean, it might have an indirect effect, but how might we increase the speed of repolarization?
Having more potassium channels open.
Yeah, more potassium channels open. Do potassium channels work off the same stimuli as the calcium channels? Or sodium channels?
No,
No, so how can they be the same?
they're not.
Let's go back to the
Good job,
last
Mark.
one. We're still missing one. Funny, but we're missing probably the second largest one of the sympathetic activations, the sympathetic effects on the heart.
Would it be vasodilation?
You got the hardest one to remember,
Would it be
the
vaso?
next hardest one to remember, the easiest one to remember, and now we're on this one. What did you say?
I was gonna say the vasodilation of the
What does that have to do
coronary,
with the heart?
of the coronary arteries.
What does that have to do with the heart?
Increased perfusion.
What does that have to do with? What does vasodilation have to do with?
It has to do with increased perfusion.
What does vasodilation deal with? What anatomical structure does vasodilation deal with?
Vessels.
It's
Coronary.
not the heart. That's not a heart cell. That's a blood vessel cell.
Got it.
What's that?
Repolarization increase. Because your repolarization is shorter, and so you
Heart rate.
repolarize that to the back.
That's one of the places where depolarization is increasing. I will sit here until, I will stare at you until 11, until you get this one. This needs to roll off your tongue. It should have been the second one you listed.
So we got inotropic, which is the contractility, isn't it?
Ask a different question.
Chronotropic.
Ask a different question.
Or the same
The sympathetic nervous system has 4 effects on the heart.
Time, contractility,
Inotropic.
depolarization, and
I'll give you a different hint. You have like 3 entire packets of EKGs about this one thing that is related to also this.
shorten the time between the AV node. It
What's that
opens more.
called?
more channels in the IV node.
What's that called?
It's called a term that means that it it opens more channels in the
What does
AV
the AV
node.
node do?
Delays
It
the signal.
delays the signal,
Good.
slows
So it
the delay.
the signal. So what is the AV node?
Excitability.
What is the AV node?
It's a bunch of
What
cells.
happens to electrical current through the AV node?
Delayed.
Granted, in a larger, more global sense.
It's gone through a variety of channels in like a maze.
Great, so it goes from point A to point B, what do
Uh-huh.
we call that?
Pathway.
Pathways?
Goes point A, point B.
There's a word that you guys should know, that I know you know, and most of you will poke your eyes out when you hear
Come on,
it,
Noah.
because it's that simple.
Oh.
Conduction.
Thank you. What about conduction?
Speak up, Lindsay, you just said it.
We just said it?
What's happening to conduction?
What, Lindsay?
It's
We're
speeding.
increasing conduction.
Yeah, because of the X-ray.
Wow. So that was
Yeah, that was
stressful,
something else.
right? Conduction is what we're talking about, it's increasing conduction. Yes? Wow, we were way talking back over about lung disease. Okay, so we're increasing heart rate, we're increasing conduction, we're increasing contractility, we're increasing repolarization. Increasing the heart rate and increasing conduction are the two I want to focus on for just a moment. If we're increasing heart rate and we're increasing conduction, how are we doing that? How are we increasing the heart rate and the conduction?
Like bringing.
Mechanistically, how are we doing that?
The cells are closer to depolarization, the threshold is lower.
Okay, so they're more what?
Unstable.
They're more unstable, right? We're increasing instability. Yes? We're increasing instability. We are making them more excitable. Do we agree? Okay, so that's fantastic. We are increasing instability. We are making these cells more excitable, correct? Through our activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Fantastic. Now, tell me a problem that some of these cells are experiencing. It's on the board. You can talk about a couple of them, so tell me some of the problems that these cells are experiencing.
Hypoxia.
Some of them are experiencing hypoxia.
Acidosis.
Some of them are acidic. We can just stop right there. So, we have 4 cells, hypothetically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All of which are increasing their excitability. Correct?
Correct.
All of them are being forced to increase their excitability. All of them are being forced to increase the amount of work that they're doing. Their depolarization is going up. Their repolarization is going up, right?
Yep.
Therefore, something else also has to work faster in these 4 cells. Let's see if we can get there. There's another thing that has to work quickly. It is related to the repolarization process, though it doesn't cause repolarization. But it's related to what's happening after depolarization and after repolarization.
The ATPase pumps,
The ATPase pumps. What about those ATPase pumps?
they
The
need,
ATPase pumps.
they need energy to work, which is oxygen.
Okay, so we are increasing the work of the ATPase pumps because we're increasing the speed at which all these other ions are moving. All these other ions are moving in these places that they're not supposed to be. The ATPase pumps have to work more to put everything back as well. So we are having an increase in the workload of the ATPase pumps. Yes?
Yes.
The ATPase pumps they work off of breaking.
Glucose.
ATPase works off of breaking. ATPase is an enzyme that breaks. Thank you,
ATP.
ATP. Fantastic, we're getting someplace.
Way to go, Andrew.
Some of us remember something.
Okay.
You moved like to 8:30.
Therefore, we have to have a lot of ATP for those pumps to be breaking down, and the process of breaking down the ATP and releasing that in organic phosphate group gives us the energy to drive those pumps. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. some of these cells, let's say that one and that one, are being affected. I'm just hypothetically throwing this out, right? These two cells are being affected. This one is currently being affected by hypoxia. Yes?
So that means it doesn't have the oxygen to run that ATPase pump to pump out its,
Okay, so what's its HTPS pump going to be doing?
Shut.
Compared to this one,
it's gonna be
compared to this one.
slower.
Slower.
Slower and less effective.
Right.
Therefore, if it's slower and less effective over a period of time, this particular cell is going to be what in relation to its excitability that it's being told to be?
Not
It's
so
not
much.
gonna be as
Not so
unstable.
much. So this one's not so excitable compared to these two that are doing their normal excitability. This one was the one that was affected currently by hypoxia. Does that make sense? Okay, so its excitability is going to be excitable at a different time than these ones' excitabilities. Do we agree?
Mhm.
Okay, fantastic. So let's say these two are excitable every 5 seconds. I am completely making this up, just deal with it, understand the proportions of what I'm talking about. These two are excitable every 5 seconds jointly, together. This one is now excitable every, 7 seconds. Therefore, sometimes it'll be excitable at the same times as this, and sometimes it'll be refractory to when these ones are excitable. And then, if it's refractory to when these ones are excitable, then sometimes it's going to fire on its own. Does that make sense? Now this cell over here, it's also hypoxic. We also have some hypoxia that's affecting that cell, but we also have a lot of acidic environment around this cell. So we have acids around that cell as well. So not only is the area hypoxic in terms of what it's being delivered, but we've got acids in and around this cell that are disrupting the internal metabolism of that cell anyway. So what's its ATP production going to be?
Lower.
Even less than this cell. So this cell might be now excitable every 11 seconds. So now we have these two cells that are excitable every 5 seconds. This one that reaches its threshold, when I say excitable, I'm saying it's reaching its threshold, right? Is reaching its inherent threshold every 7 seconds. This one's reaching its inherent threshold every 11 seconds. And they're refractory to other times that these two are activated, yes?
Mm-hmm.
And now what we have is we get into a sequence of, well, we have this that's working together, this one working on its own, and this one that's working on its own all of a sudden. Do we understand?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're missing it.
Take that to the next level.
Now we're sitting
Right,
What's going to
so-
happen in the heart if we have pockets like this?
wandering.
We could have AFib that occurs.
Yeah.
What else could we have?
Wandering atrial pacemaker.
We could have a wandering atrial pacemaker. Would it be wandering atrial pacemaker likely?
Or multifocal
Or
tachycardia.
multifocal tachycardia
Because
because
they're already tachycardic.
we're already in a tachycardia to begin with.
Would this lead us to a heart block?
It potentially could, depending on what's going on in that AV node. Yeah,
All right,
Because is this happening in the AV node as well?
waiting. Yeah, well, it depends on if the AV node is also hypoxic and acidic. But it
Why,
could be.
why would it not be if the other cells are?
It depends on the statistic of what blood flow is affected in which arteries that it's leading to.
Okay.
It could be globally, or it could be splotchy. Either
Okay.
one. That's just statistics and economics.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You were talking about those 4 little cells as being your AV node?
No, I was talking about those 4 little cells just being 4 little cells in the heart. I
Oh,
didn't give it a place.
I no longer have a question.
Great. Let's blow this up a little bit. Let's say that it's not 4 little cells. Let's say that it's 4 places within the heart that collectively are together because they're all in communities, right?
Right.
So this community of cell right here are these ones. This little community of cells over here are these ones that are all globally hypoxic in this area. This little community right down here is this set, and now we have a large collection of cells that are going together, but are also affected by the global things that are happening around them. So now we have this pocket that's not listening to anything else, this pocket that's not listening to anything else, this pocket that's not listening to anything else, but they're large enough pockets to get a control over a reasonably large area of contractile cells. And what do we have?
Problems.
Problems. What kind of rhythm would that right there
With fibrillation.
demonstrate?
One radial pacemaker.
One radial pacemaker is exactly what we would see in that situation. The question that came to me was, how is one radial pacemaker and consequently multifocal atrial tachycardia related to lung disease?
There you go.
You understand? The heart is affected by what the lungs do because the lungs are delivering the nutrients the heart uses to function. Make sense?
Yeah.
Questions? Yeah.
But like local tachycardia also on this test as an answer?
I don't know.
Okay, then never mind. Because I was gonna say, if that were, would that be more right than that?
Well, it was.
I think multiple tachycardia was the thing I was asking about, but I can't remember.
The
The question was asking is how to